I'm going to teach you expert level vocabulary to do with health in this video. Vocabulary that will be really useful if you need to achieve a C1 or higher level in an exam run by Cambridge or IELTS 7 or above. First of all, have a history of is a phrase we often use in medical terms. This means it introduces long-term medical history issues. If you have a history of perhaps feeling dizzy or feeling unwell in a certain way, then that means that throughout your life or your medical records, it is noted that you have had this problem over and over again. When you go to the hospital in most countries, normally they go on a computer, type to see your medical history, and if they find the same thing again and again and again, they'll say to you, you seem to have a history of this particular problem. If something aches, it means you have mild continuous pains in a part of your body. So a headache is usually not something that's so painful that you have to go to hospital, but it's something that irritates you and causes you a little bit of pain for a long period of time. Sometimes this ache can become stronger. Also, toothache is where you have pain in your teeth. It's not an emergency, but it's something you probably want to do something about soon. Cholesterol. This describes the fat that we have in arteries. It's often linked to heart disease. So cholesterol looks like this. It's the lumps that form in our veins and can cause blood to be blocked as it travels around the body. Clinical. This is to do with a medical purpose. If we describe something as an adjective and say this is for clinical purposes, then it means it's for medical purposes. I've called you in for clinical reasons. Medical reasons. When you come round, that means that you wake up. Now, sometimes we use this in everyday life for someone who wakes up from sleep, but often we use this in a medical sense for someone who has gone to sleep because they've had an anaesthetic. They've gone to sleep perhaps for an operation. When they come round, it means they've woken up from that operation. Digestion is to do with how the body absorbs food. Your food goes down your throat and down a pipe to your stomach. This is all called the digestion system. Energy is not just to do with electricity, but it's also to do with your own ability to do activities, how alive and alert you feel. If you're able to go for a long run without it causing you problems, you've probably got high energy. But if you feel like you need to sit down all day, then you're perhaps low on energy. If you have an itch, this means an uncomfortable feeling that leads to scratching. Perhaps you have a rash on your arm or some sore skin. Perhaps an insect bit you and you want to scratch it. Now, you want to scratch it because of a feeling that we call an itch. Obesity is the subject of being very overweight. If someone has too much weight for their height, then they're called obese, and obesity is the subject of this. Posture is how you stand up straight. If you stand up straight with your head directly above your back, that's often called good posture. But if you're bent over, so your head is kind of at an angle and your back bends, we call that bad posture. Pulse is the movement of blood round the body. When the heart pumps your blood, it creates like a beat, and that's called the pulse. React means to respond. Now, react we can often use when you hear something and you have a mental or emotional reaction, but we also use react and reaction in a medical sense. Perhaps you're given some medicine and it makes you feel unwell. If that's the case, then maybe you've had a bad reaction to the medicine. A scar is a mark from an old cut. If you cut yourself and the cut is very long and they need to stitch the cut, After it heals, it leaves a little line there, doesn't it? And that's called a scar. A side effect is a negative impact of treatment not related to the medical issue. So let's say you have a headache. You take tablets, they cure the headache, but perhaps after you take the tablets, you feel unwell in a different way. And that's a side effect. Stamina is your ability to keep going. Someone who can run a marathon has excellent stamina. Someone who can't run even for 100 meters has poor stamina. And well-being means how good a person's bodily and mental health is. So if you're saying, I have negative mental well-being, then that means you have a problem with your thinking. It's not working well. Perhaps you're sad a lot. But if you say, yeah, I have excellent well-being at the moment, that means you feel good in your body, you feel good in your mind. So what can you remember? What was this one? It's to do with standing up straight. It was posture. How about this one? This is the process of food going through your body. The word was digestion. What about the person who can run and run and run and run without stopping, maybe even doing a marathon? This person has excellent stamina. And what about the line that's caused when you have a cut and it heals, but it heals with a line? What's that line called? It's called a scar. So make sure you use these phrases and words to reach a high level in examinations you take, or simply to speak like a native in everyday English when you're talking about health. And this video is part of a new course that I have just released called Advanced English Vocabulary. It contains hundreds of essential advanced English words that you need to know and use if you're going to reach that C1 or C2 level of English, or if you'd like to pass tests such as IELTS with a score of 7 or higher. It contains detailed explanations of all the words, a daily learning plan to help you keep on target, and exercises that will help you check your learning. Get the course now. Click on the link in the video description below me.